And so it kind of loses that intensity of flavor in the middle. But like one thing I understand about Indian food is that like sometimes when you add a little bit of something, it messes up the flavor profile. If you add a lot, it kind of integrates with everything else. And that's how Indian spices work. So if you have 7, 8, 10, 12 different spices that goes into something, and if you add just a little teeny tiny pinch of something, unless it's supposed to be that little, because it's so assertive, then like it doesn't really integrate well. I think it's like when people make like pasta sauce at home,
Right.
like that are creative but haven't really got the background of cooking yet. So like their pasta sauce will have some weird flavor. You're like, what was that? Right? Especially with like spaghetti. I don't know. I always think of that Andy Griffith episode where Andy ends up eating like 5 plates of spaghetti because everybody that he goes to their house, he's supposed to have a meal.
You started off cooking with your mom, all that kind of fun stuff. But how did you transition from that into working actually in a real restaurant? Did you, just keep cooking at home all your life and then,
No, no,
magically
no.
you were
I mean,
opening up your first restaurant?
no. So when I first started working in a restaurant, obviously, it's completely different. It's French. It's not Indian. Because I started at a kind of a higher end uh, bistro kind of restaurant. And then went on to a Michelin star restaurant much later in my training. So the interesting thing was like, basically it was like a switch, right? You turn off Indian cooking because that's what I was doing with my mom. And then, but the interesting thing was when I would taste like a sauce or like force meat, like when you make pate or something like that, then I would that's when like my brain would be like, what would make this good is this. Because one of the things about Indian spices is, like I said before, it's like balance. It's like how much you use with other spices.
Do you ever find people like bring you food to eat or something like that? And you're like, do you know what the secret ingredient is?
It depends. It might be a secret ingredient here, but it might not be somewhere else. You know what I mean? Because I like that kind of
A
that
little
spice.
kick. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we sent it out and it says horseradish on the menu. And so she was like, "Oh no, like the way we make it at home, like green peppers in it and this and that and corn." I'm like, "Corn?"
I think it's interesting, that lady kind of had that experience because I think that everyone it's kind of unique to your industry. Everyone eats. Everyone has like an identity piece of food. Whenever I've dealt with Italians, they always tell me like, no, 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 you can't change it. Like you don't do that this is an Italian food. If
Yeah.
you
The whole
there's
pineapple on pizza thing.
oh
Yeah.
well, pineapple on pizza. How you make Alfredo sauce, or like
Sure.
if you used cream, if you didn't, are we just using pasta water, a little bit of
Well,
yeah,
traditionally, Alfredo is just butter and cheese. There's a difference in what I do, right? Because what you grow up with has budgetary constraints. What dishes were passed down and what dishes were new uh, inclusions into your parents' repertoire. For example, when we moved from India to the US, like I had a grilled cheese for the first time. And my mom made it on that grocery store Italian bread with the sesame seeds. Well, it had a recipe for grilled cheese on the side, and that's what she used. And we loved it as kids, and I still love grilled cheese. So, like, people usually ask me, "Oh, what do you eat when you're not working?" I'm like, grilled cheese. Like, food is just whatever people want to say it. And where I come from is I try to do it culturally. So I used to live in Italy.